Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. I am starting a new quilt project and I'm pulling fabric for this video. So if you want to see how I pull some fabric for the Scrappy Bricks quilt, please stay tuned. I am so excited about getting started on this new project. It's kind of my reward because I've been working on some bears and stuff, and so I'm kind of taking a little break to pull some fabric for a new project. I know you see all this stuff behind me, so technically I don't really need to do a new project, but I want to try something different anyway. One of my quilting friends sent me this pattern and she's making it in like as a baby quilt, and she has her fabrics already picked out. And so I decided I wanted to kind of make it with her. And so I kind of gave us a challenge to create this quilt. It is called the Scrappy Bricks quilt. It's a free pattern and I got it off of AZ Blankets for Kids. I'm looking to see if the website is here on the pattern, but it's not. But it says a child-size quilt, and it's supposed to be finished at 40 inches by 48 inches. And so here is the design. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see it. But I have my part of the challenge. She's using like 3 colors. There's a purple and a pink and a green. If I remember, I will put a picture of her fabrics here in the video. And so when she suggested this to me, I asked her to pick some colors for me, and she said that she's kind of making a girl quilt, and so maybe I can make a boy quilt. And so the colors that she gave me were blue, yellow, and green. So we get to see how I'm going to pull some fabrics for this today. I decided to add a neutral, and I have this fabric. I showed it in a recent video. This music fabric right here, some jazzy type fabric. And so I'm going to use this as a neutral and as kind of an inspiration for the fabrics that I pull. There is a yellow, a green, and a blue in here. I'm kind of going closer. And I'm going to try to stick within those tones to pull fabrics for this quilt. Like I want to try to match these colors as much as possible. There's no real guarantee that I can do that. I'm going to try to do it, but I'm going to start with my scraps, so there's really no telling what I'm going to get. So before I start pulling, I know that this is going to be one that I'm going to use, and so I need to pull the other 3 colors from my, I'm going to start in my scrap bin and then go upstairs if I need to. But I want to show you kind of my process for what I'm going to create as far as patterns, as far as how many of the blocks I'm going to need. I decided to zoom in a little bit so that you can see the pattern. Like I said, this is a free pattern from AZ Blankets for Kids. And I think the website is like azblanketforkids.com. It's called the Scrappy Bricks quilt. And I actually decided to color these in. So I printed like 5 copies. This is so you can just see the pattern. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that you can see the actual layout of the quilt. I'm trying to adjust my, yeah. Okay, so it is just rectangles and squares. And they're kind of put in staggering rows or offsetting rows. And what I decided to do, since I was using the 4 colors, I decided to color some things in so that I would know exactly how many of each square I would need and how many of each rectangle. So I want to go over kind of how I decided what to do with this block. Since I wanted to feature my fabric, I'll put my fabric down here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Not really, but I'll put my fabric right here. There we go. So I decided to feature this fabric. And so my first layout, I did a, hold on, let me move them. Okay, hold on. Okay, that's the one I actually chose, so I'm gonna wait. All right, so in this layout, I did a white rectangle for every row so that this fabric was the most that we saw in the quilt. And then I did every other row with a white square. So there's a white square in every single row, or white rectangle, and then every other white square, or I mean a white rectangle in every row, and then every other row, the white rectangles alternate. And here there's sort of a pattern, but it's pretty random. And so like it's okay as far as patterns go. But I thought it was just too random. I can't really get behind it, and you don't really know what to expect. So I decided to go against that one. And then I did, I made all the squares white in this pattern. And then I did a white rectangle every other row. So again, we see the white predominant, and I say white, but it's this fabric as a predominant fabric in the quilt. Again, random. I do sort of like these blue columns that formed here, and that's pretty cool. Oh, and we have a green column and a yellow column. I didn't notice that before, but now that this pattern is upside down, I do see it, and it does give us a little bit of order. But it would seem like there should be all green right here, and we have a white there. So, and that really could have been fixed, but whatever. But so this one is not the one for me. All right, and then I did, what did I do for this one? This one I did white alternating here, and then I did blue, yellow, green, white, blue, yellow, green, white, blue, yellow, green, white, or something like that. I don't know. But I imagine that I laid the white out first, you know, and this one is okay. It has the most, it's the easiest to read because these are all yellow and these are all blue and these are all green and so on, yellow, green, blue. And then the whites are kind of interspersed. So it's a nice looking colorway. But the one that I decided to go with is right here. And for this one, I did blue, yellow, green, white, like the whole way. I think what I did here was blue, yellow, green, white, blue, and then yellow, green, white, blue. That's what I did. I alternated just the two rows. So the top row, the rectangle row is always blue, yellow, green, white, blue. And then the alternate row is always yellow, green, white, yellow, or blue, yellow, green. And so you get that, the column effect. It's okay. But the one that I decided to go with is I took this blue, yellow, green, white pattern and I went all the way down the quilt. And I'm really happy with this one. It's pretty predictable. And so this is what I'm going to go with. I want to make sure you can see it in the camera. I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. Okay. And so here, what I like about this pattern is these diagonal rows. So they have rows that go blue, green, blue, green, blue, green, all the way down. And then the alternate rows, or the alternate diagonals, go yellow, white, yellow, white. And I just think it has a lot of flavor to it. It's random enough, but it's also pretty predictable. So I'm pretty happy with that. And one thing that I wanted to make sure of was that this color underneath was never the same as the ones near it. So like, for example, this green is under a blue and a yellow and under a blue and a white. So it's never the same color stacked on top of each other. I tried to do that with all of them, but this is the one that we are going to go with. And since we're going with this one, I went ahead and decided how many rectangles I would need for each color and how many squares. This, it calls for 54 rectangles and then 12 squares. But I went ahead, since I had my diagram, I went ahead and figured it out by color, how many I need. Ideally, I would love to get completely different fabrics for all of these, but we'll just see how it works out with what I have. So let's get started with pulling some fabric. All right, I'm gonna start with the my scrap tub here to pull fabrics. This is where I keep my scraps that are larger than like a 10-inch square. And basically it's just a dumping ground for the new scraps that I create. If it ends up being like a super small square or a super small piece, it may go in my crumbs. Sometimes I process right away, but I have not in a while. So, and really it would be cool if I did like 1 or 2 a day, but I don't necessarily do that. So this is where I'm gonna start. I am looking for the rectangles, I need enough for an 8.5 by 4.5. For the squares, I need like 4.5 inches. I do have my 5-inch squares up there on the shelf, and so I may just go in there and pull for the 4.5-inch squares and just cut them down. But I'll start here and just see what I can get. Again, I'm looking for blue, yellow, and green to coordinate with this fabric. I have not decided how I'm going to, like, as far as the shades of these, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to see what I have first and then make an adjustment or an arrangement based on what I have in here. Starting here, and the goal, of course, is to get at least 16 blues and 15 yellows and 16 greens. Hopefully all different, but we'll see what we get. I'm going to speed up the camera here just so you can kind of see me going through these. You will see some batting because some of my backing is still sewn to batting and I have not processed those, but don't worry about that. I'm gonna push it to the side unless it's a color that I need. So I'm speeding up the camera now. I may go ahead and I may lower it so that you can actually see into the tub. So here we go. That I pulled out of my scraps. I have, these are leftovers from my trip around the world quilt. They're the parts of the backing that I cut off, and I found some blues and some yellows in this. And then I have a couple more here, and then here's one right here. And I decided to go with the darker blue right now. We'll see when I get upstairs and look for the rest of them. So I have 6 blues. I found 6 yellows. I'm not really 100% sure about these 2 because if it's supposed to be sort of a boy quilt, quote unquote, I don't know. But I'm gonna keep them for right now and then go upstairs and see what else I have. And then from here, I also see some yellows that I can pull. So I have 6 blues, 6 yellows, and I only found 2 greens. Again, I'm not really certain about this one, except it really coordinates with the fabric because it has the pink and red, and this has pink and red too. So it's really cool. Now I'm gonna head upstairs and see what I can find to finish out the fabric for this quilt. I started cutting some of the pieces that I found in my scrap box, but I have a few pieces that I got from upstairs. So I added this piece and I added these 2 greens, but these probably came out of the scrap bag. But so these are cut so far. I decided to go ahead and cut them first so I would kind of know exactly what I would need. I went and pulled from downstairs. These are some of the ones that not downstairs, upstairs. This yellow, this peppers, like this is my favorite one that I got from upstairs. But then I laid everything out here so we can take a look. My blues are in various stages of being starched. I'll show you those in a minute. But I have some of my greens here, and I put them all on top of the coordinating fabric so you can kind of see everything together. These are my yellows. I really don't have that many yellows, so most of these will probably be duplicates in the quilt, and that's okay. And then blues, I have 3 blues right here, but then I have a couple that are being starched. They are, over here. And all these came from upstairs. So you can see those. And then I have another one behind my sewing table it's starched, and so I just have it on the floor. But you can kind of see my my process right now. I'm so excited that I'm going to go ahead and start cutting things. My yellow, all of these have been starched, so I definitely can get those done. But I have like a little bit of blue starched, a little bit of green. Those two long strips have both been starched, so they can go pretty soon. But yeah, these are my colors that I'm going to work with. And my main fabric here, it's already been starched. I'm just waiting to press it. I haven't pressed it because I wanted to get this video first. I have all of the pieces here cut out for this Scrappy Bricks quilt. Very excited. I made a little chart on the back so that I checked off the squares as I was, or the rectangles and squares as I cut them out. So it's time to put them up here on the design wall. I have my blues, and the rectangles and squares are both mixed in together. I probably should separate them. Let's do that so it'll be easier. And I'm gonna do this on camera first, and then we'll see what I need to move and place in a different place. I want it to be kind of evenly dispersed, light and dark, but I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know how that's gonna play out. We'll see. I have my greens here. Okay. And I'm just separating out the squares and rectangles. Uh-oh, there should be another square somewhere. There it is. All right, and then my yellows. And I had the yellows and white in one pile so that everything could fit in the shoebox. So here are the yellows. And I'm gonna put the whites over here on the ironing board, but let's see. Yellows. And here are my whites. And of course I'm calling them white, but they're just they're actually kind of my focus fabric slash whatever. And I want to show you this. I have, for this fabric, it's kind of a tossed fabric, but I decided that whenever Miles Davis is in the fabric, then he's going to be right side up. So if I see Miles Davis, he's right side up. But if I don't see him, see he's in this one, there are a couple that he's not in, and I'm not going to worry about it. See, like that one, Miles Davis isn't in that one at all. So, but the other ones, if Miles is in here, if this green trumpet player is in here, he's right side up. Everything else doesn't matter. So I'm going to start getting everything together. If you've seen the beginning of the video, I have it all drawn out here, but the pattern is just blue, yellow, green, white. So I'm just going to put it up there, and then we'll see how it goes. I will speed it up, but I want you to see me do this on camera. So let's get started. Blue. I have the quilt up on the design wall, and I have played around with the color placement just a little bit. I will show you the original that I had up on the board, And then I think beside it, I'll put it in black and white, and you can see where some of the areas were a little dark. And so I played around with it probably like 3 or 4 times, figuring out the lights and darks and making sure that I was happy with how they were distributed. I'm gonna put a picture of this one probably about right here in the monochromatic or the black and white, so you can see what it looks like. I want to spend a little bit of time sewing on it tonight. I'm not really sure how long it's gonna be. It is currently like 10:40 at night, and I normally do not sew this late, but I've been stuffing bears all day, and so this is kind of my reward for working on the other project. So I'm going to start with just the top row and chain piece it the whole way down as much as I can in, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes. I will zoom in just a little bit so you can see a bit of that process. I don't know, like I said, how long it's going to take, but I am going to set a timer so that we can, so I can see how far I get in such a short amount of time. So I'm going to speed up the video here so you can see what I'm doing, but let's get rolling. I was able to get about half of the quilt done, like the rows, I mean, in the 25-minute timer. I probably could have got a little bit more, but I thought that the video had stopped recording, so I went to check it for like a few seconds. So I think I could have got just a little bit more done if I hadn't done that. And if I hadn't had some tension issues at the beginning, but that's fine. That's a part of the process, getting the tension issues resolved. But you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows completely done. One more seam to do in the 7th row, and then the entire bottom of the quilt rows. You can see that the quilt is starting to shrink up. The rows that I've stitched are much shorter than the rows that are not stitched together, and that's just because of the seam allowance. But I like the way that it looks as they're coming together. I think it's going to be a really fantastic project. I'm going to finish sewing these rows off camera, and I will show you what they look like before I sew the rows together. All these blocks are sewn into rows now. They started to shrink in a little bit, and so now we're going to shrink it down vertically because we're going to sew the rows together. I went ahead and I pressed all the seams to one side. Since there are no seams to match in here, I think that's going to work fine. I pressed all of my seams to the right, but whatever direction I think that you want to press them, you can, like, because like I said, there's no seams to match. I did go ahead and take the bottom two rows off so I could show you how I'm going to pin everything. And I've pinned it pretty well. I started by pinning the top and the bottom, and then I pinned in the center. On the rows with the squares at the end, the center is really hard to find. And then I kind of went and found the center there, and then just, so I put in, like, after I found the center, I think I put in like 4 pins per piece. So it's pinned pretty well because they should be exactly the same length, and I want to keep them that way as I put everything together. So my next step is going to be to sew these rows together in 2s first, then in 4s, and then it'll be the whole thing, and then we can see about some borders. I have the entire quilt top, Stepping Stones quilt top, stitched here in the rows. It is pretty cute. Let's measure and see how big it is. Let me grab my tape measure. It is rectangular, so that's a little bit different from my normal quilts, but I do prefer a rectangular quilt. So let's see. It should be about 40 inches wide by 48 inches tall. So let's just see where we are. I have right at 48 inches. Wait, no. Yeah. So now right at 48 inches tall. And I'm just measuring across the center. And then, like, I have 40 1/4 inches wide. So it's a little bit wider than the pattern says, but it's still a pretty good size. I'm going to add a 1.5 inch border. I'm going to give you a little close up of this border. It is in the quilt, just in like one spot, but I have this piece of blue with these little cute stars on it. And I cut it down into 1.5 inch strips. And I have a lot of varying sizes. I'm going to stitch them all together and then do the sides of the quilt, then the top and bottom. And I will show you the final border once we have this one on. I have this Scrappy Bricks quilt top completed now with the 2 additional borders. I am really happy with the way this has come together. At first, once I wanted to put this larger border on, I was a little bit concerned about that it wouldn't, that it would be too busy. And it is totally busy. There is a lot going on in this quilt, but I'm still really happy with how it turned out. I'm a huge fan, and I didn't know that I would be a huge fan, but this is such a simple project, but to me, it has a lot of, a lot of impact, even though it's a really simple simple pattern. I'm trying to think if I have major concerns about this. Here, looking at it up close, it's a lot, but on camera, I didn't feel as overwhelmed by it. So I'm really excited about seeing this thing quilted and bound. I'm going to use 2 fabrics for the binding, a navy and a stripe. Let me grab those now. I have them starched, but I haven't created the binding yet. I haven't measured this quilt top. I think I'll do that here on camera so you can see how big it is. But it is a super cute quilt and pretty large. Adding a 4.5 inch border all around really has expanded this quilt to make it a little larger. Let me show you these binding fabrics. My flange is going to be the navy because I think it's going to frame out this really nicely. And then my larger piece is going to be this stripe. So I'm excited to see a stripe binding on this quilt. I think it's going to be really nice. I have the backing chosen, but I'm going to wait and share that at another time. It's over on the shelf and it needs to be pressed and prepped and all that. So, but for now, here is the finished Scrappy Bricks quilt. This was my original color layout. And I'm happy with how this turned out. Even though this is not really a white fabric, I just think it's wonderful. I wanted to, since I made this quilt top in conjunction with one of my friends, I want to put both of our quilt tops side by side so that you can see them, what she interpreted the pattern as versus what I interpreted. Any comments that you have about it, I think they both turned out great. She actually shrunk this down to a 2.5 inch by 4.5 inch rectangle, maybe, I don't remember. But I used the size that was here in the pattern. But they both turned out really great. If you have any questions about what you've seen in this video, leave them in the comments below. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already. I hope that you will give the Scrappy Bricks quilt a try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!